Anyway, we did our thing. Welcome back, folks. I'm Nick Forster. Chuck Prophet and his Cumbia Shoes are going to be back to play some more music later on. And coming up, Alicia Brilla is here from Canada. She and Sammy Duke will be out to play some stuff. That's a whole nother story that we're looking forward to. So I was talking before, both with Chuck before the show and just in general about the beauty of having music bring us together and expose us to different cultures. And you know, the world is confusing out there because we're in a moment where, you know, in some cases, brown-skinned people who speak Spanish are getting picked up and because they just look the part. And we're here in Colorado, which used to be part of Mexico and borders New Mexico, where there's a lot of brown-skinned Spanish-speaking people who've lived there for centuries. And so it's a little weird, and I'm not saying that law enforcement shouldn't identify criminals and protect our ability to be safe. Absolutely, that should happen, but it's getting a little blurry out there and confusing. So I'm confused about a lot of stuff. So I figured I would call a lawyer and say, what is going on? Like the courts are weird and the military's out there, we're doing police. I mean, what is going on? So I called actually our district attorney here in Colorado. And we had a conversation, and I was like, you know, we should probably share that conversation. So I've invited him to join us today to help us learn some stuff. So please welcome our local district attorney, Michael Dougherty. He's here. Yeah. Michael, welcome. Glad you could do this. I know you're a busy guy. Maybe we could start just by telling us a little bit about how you got to be the district attorney. I just want to make sure, yeah. And yeah, what was your journey like from I know you went to law school.
Yes.
So we could start after that.
This is where the big reveal happens,
yeah.
That I've been your district attorney for 7 years and I never went to law school.
Yeah.
Well, first, let me say thank you for having me on with you tonight, and it's great to be back at eTown, and congratulations, by the way, on your incoming or upcoming induction into the Bluegrass Hall of Fame.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So my journey actually starts with my grandparents. All four were Irish immigrants who came over on the boat with nothing but the shirts on their backs. Although I told my son that recently, and he said, nothing but the shirts on their backs. I said, yes. He's like, no pants? So I had to explain what it meant. Yeah. But what it really meant was they came here for the freedoms and opportunities that this country offered to them then. And it's a path denied to so many now and made so much more difficult now than it was back then. But I grew up with a strong work ethic instilled in me and a love of this country and a willingness to fight for what we believe in.
Yeah.
And after graduating from community college and going on to law school, I knew I wanted to go into public service. So I had the honor of going to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in New York City. Right. After law school. I served there for 13 years, ultimately being entrusted with the leadership of the office of 1,300 people. But came out to Colorado on a regular basis because my brother, who was a cyclist, had moved out here. As you know, the world of Boulder is far more friendly to cyclists than the world of New York City. So my wife, Antonia, who's here tonight, and I would come out and visit my brother, and I'd run these races. I did the Pikes Peak Marathon and the Boulder Half Marathon, although the Pikes Peak Marathon, and when I looked up at the mountain, I questioned my sanity.
Didn't you also do the Leadville 100?
I've done that twice, yes.
That, I would question your sanity about running 100 miles. And, yeah, anyway, but go on, sorry.
So thankfully I've been blessed with a lot of stamina, and that's helped me in my career as well. But I ultimately moved out to Colorado to work for the Colorado Attorney General's office. The Attorney General made me an offer that I couldn't refuse, as they say. My wife and I made the leap with our family from Brooklyn, New York to Boulder, Colorado to work at the Attorney General's office. And shortly after I arrived here, I had the honor of being put in charge of the entire criminal section for the Attorney General's office. So then I handled cases all around the state of Colorado, and for the last 7 years, I've had the honor of being the elected district attorney for Boulder County.
Yeah. And I know, you've prosecuted some big cases, including the gunman who killed 10 people at King Soopers and many other so high-profile cases. Has your ability to do your job changed recently? I mean, are you still able to do all the things that you feel like you have to do to protect the things you care about. I mean, I understand your priorities are obviously public safety and the rule of law, but how would you describe them?
So I'm really fortunate that we've had crises in Boulder County and other jurisdictions where I've worked, that I've had experience as a lawyer and a leader and a great team around me to rise to those moments, but also to really work and live in such a special community. I'm reminded, Nick, 2 years ago, you held a commemoration event here for the King Soopers victims. And the victim family members who spoke on stage that night spoke with such resiliency and strength that it was inspiring to me to have the honor of working with and for them on that case.
Yeah, we lost one of our employees.
Yes, Suzanne Fountain, who by all accounts was such a beautiful, wonderful person. And a devastating incident for our entire community and for all of Colorado.
But I think in a broad sense, what I'm interested in now is that it seems like things have shifted. And I don't mean prosecuting bad guys and finding criminals and bringing them to justice. I mean just the things like precedent, legal precedent, and basic rights like birthright citizenship and things that we think of, well, that's pretty much solid, it's in the Constitution and it's been, upheld in the Supreme Court. It's pretty solid, but all of a sudden it's not solid for some reason. And so I think a lot of people listening to the show and in general are like, what is going on out there? Rules don't seem to be rules anymore. And that must be tough for a guy like you who's basically in the rules business.
Definitely. I mean, as someone who's fought for the rule of law and fought for justice throughout my 28-year career, what's happened over the past several months is absolutely shocking for everyone, and it's made the work we do in some ways even more important. Yeah. You're absolutely right about birthright citizenship. That is a constitutional right, plain and simple. It is in the U.S. Constitution, and in 1898, the U.S. Supreme Court reaffirmed that that's a constitutional right. And you think about how many people have come to this country and raised their families and built their lives with that protection in place. And on the first day of the new administration, that was revoked, and it sent a shockwave through not just Colorado, but across this nation. Yeah. And the impact for us in the world of the justice system is that, and I think I want to acknowledge that people have different views on immigration, but I've yet to meet a person who disagrees with me on the following, which is, do you agree with me that when a person is sexually assaulted, they should be able to come forward to have treatment, to report it to the police, and have justice done and the offender held accountable without fear that they or the kids are going to be deported? And right now there are people who are terrified, who are afraid to come forward and have justice done because of things like birthright citizenship being revoked. The only thing defending them and protecting them right now is the rule of law, and that's what stopped it in the courts thus far.
Yeah. So I know that there are people who don't know what their rights are and they don't know how to react to circumstances right now. I mean, do you have any suggestions? Like if, are there things we can do that will help our employees or our friends or our families be safer or better informed?
Yes. So since becoming district attorney in 2018, we've had an immigrant protection program here in Boulder County where I and law enforcement leaders are united on the protections that we afford to immigrants living in our community. So for example, if someone's being pulled over for a traffic offense, they will never be asked their status in this country. And if it's learned through the criminal justice process, it will not be reported to the federal government because our commitment is to public safety. And now those protections have been expanded throughout the state of Colorado because of a Senate Bill 276 that I strongly supported this past legislative session. Yeah. But to answer your question, we've been doing Know Your Rights trainings throughout Boulder County. I'll be at the Boulder Public Library tomorrow. We have 150 people signed up to attend, and the Boulder County Sheriff and leadership of the Boulder Police Department will be there standing alongside me talking about what the protections are under the law. So one good example, Nick, for any employer out there, restaurant owner, community member, a good example would be if you hang a sign up that says private restricted area, then ICE has to have a warrant to go past that threshold. So for example, if you go to the Walnut Cafe in South Boulder, I saw this the other day, they have the private sign hanging up between the restaurant area and the kitchen. That means law enforcement, but particularly ICE, needs a judicially approved warrant to cross the threshold into that kitchen. So the Know Your Rights trainings is designed to give people practical safety tips at a time that we're living through that's incredibly scary and challenging. Yeah.
And I want to point out, you're working in tandem with the police department. You're not thwarting their efforts. You're not making it harder for them to prosecute or find criminals. You're just saying, like, this is, let's be clear about what our priorities are, and let's protect people who are, not causing, problems right now. So I think the fact that it's not anti-police is important distinction. And the courts, it's just depends on the weather or maybe I don't know any more about.
I do take heart in some of the decisions that have come down. So, for example, on birthright citizenship, one of the several judges was a federal judge who was appointed by Ronald Reagan. And he said, I've been on the bench for 4 decades, and I've never seen something as blatantly unconstitutional as this executive order. And that's the rule of law being upheld, and that's what I will always fight for.
Yeah, cool. And so for us, again, just there is a large number of people who are doing what you're doing, which is making sure that the Constitution is the gold standard for what it is that's going to govern our behavior and shape and influence how we operate in the world. And the aberrations, the opportunity to take people off the streets and extradite them to other countries without an opportunity to call a lawyer, stuff like that. That's an aberration. That's something we need to work against, right?
Yes, absolutely. Each one of us has the ability to stand up and fight against it. And that can be done in a number of ways by attending our Know Your Rights trainings, also helping some of the nonprofits that assist immigrants in the community. They're overwhelmed right now with requests for legal assistance and family assistance, but helping community members be prepared. And 2 other things I would highlight for you. First, we've all seen these pictures and these videos of ICE showing up wearing masks. ICE should not be wearing masks. It undermines trust and confidence. And I've had the honor of working with outstanding women and men in law enforcement for 28 years. And we worked gang cases, murder cases, really scary cases. They've never worn masks. ICE should not be wearing masks. It really undercuts the trust and confidence that we have in government and the justice system. Also, the other thing I would mention that I'd love to have people support for is ICE has now received the largest amount of federal funding of any law enforcement agency at the federal level. That's in part because they're going to build private prisons run by for-profit corporations. And I stand here today to tell you that private prisons should be outlawed entirely.
Yeah.
And it's only from community members speaking up that we see change. So, for example, the federal government contemplated selling off our public lands, which is something that unites all Coloradans. And it was the public outcry from all sides that pushed Senator Lee to withdraw that bill. So don't underestimate our ability to stand and fight together for our values and our beliefs and for this great country.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Yeah. Well, you're doing exactly what I was hoping you would do, which is you're giving us some information and some inspiration and some confidence that there are folks who are really paying attention and working in this every day. And I really appreciate the work you're doing. And thanks for stopping by and sharing some insight. I know that there's a lot of work to do, and your point is well taken. We can all do this work together.
Well, it's my honor to be here. Thank you so much, Nick, and have a great night.
Thanks, Michael. Michael Dougherty, District Attorney. Michael Dougherty.